Good morning, everyone. This is John Heerdink. I'm the managing member of Tribe Public. Happy to be here with all of you today, and Happy New Year to you. Hope the year has kicked off well for you. Today, as you know, some of you are new to the Tribe, and the Tribe's platform allows investors across the world, now in 25 plus countries, and more counting, it seems that people are finding us, to gain access to the leaders of industry, primarily focused on Nasdaq and NYC listed companies across all sectors and disciplines. We do that through the wish list process, where you can submit the names of these companies and request that we approach them and get them on an event in the future. Just like today's event was produced through the expressed interest of the Tribe. So thank you so much for being part of the process, helping out and helping us all to learn a bit more about companies that you care about. Today we have an event, as you all know, that's titled "Addressing the Increasing Demand for Rare Cannabinoids," and will be co-hosted by three highly distinguished members of the management team of InMed Pharmaceuticals. It trades on the Nasdaq, symbol I, N as in Nancy, M as in Mary, INM. It's a global leader in the development of manufacturing and commercialization of rare cannabinoids. Again, a reminder that I'm also the managing member of a registered investment advisor in California called Vista Partners. We are invested in this company. And for a full set of disclaimers for both Tribe Public, please visit www.tribepublic.com, and also for Vista, www.vistapglobal.com. Appreciate you all joining us today. And we have a list of questions that have been graciously forwarded by the Tribe that we have collected and groomed, but know that during this event, which we're trying to keep around the 30-minute mark to be efficient, you can send some additional questions that we can try to address on this one or a future event through the Zoom chat feature. And I'll do my best to try to get in front of management. Again, thanks again, and thank you for your attention. Without further ado, let me introduce the gentlemen that are pictured. You got Eric Adams. He is the CEO, President of InMed Pharmaceuticals. We also have Shane Johnson, MD, who is a Senior Vice President, General Manager of BayMedica. And also Chris Meiering. He is the VP of Commercial Operations. Thanks again, gentlemen, for joining us today, and look forward to having this conversation with you as we move forward. So Eric, being the CEO, would you mind just taking the head and describing your InMed and your involvement at InMed?
Sure, absolutely. So InMed Pharmaceuticals is a company that for the last 5.5, 6 years has been developing rare cannabinoids using pharmaceutical drug development to address the unmet medical needs in certain diseases. So here on this slide, you can see on the right-hand side are what we call our traditional pharmaceutical drug development program. We currently have two products that we are developing. One is in phase 2 clinical trials to treat a rare skin condition called epidermolysis bullosa. And the other is still preclinical, but it's addressing a much larger market in glaucoma. So we're very excited about those development programs. Additionally, we have begun investigating novel cannabinoid analogs. So these are cannabinoids that have slight structural variations to increase their efficacy in treating diseases. Recently, we acquired BayMedica, and BayMedica has significant rare cannabinoid manufacturing capabilities, both on the pharmaceutical side and on the consumer health and wellness side. It's a very deep scientific team with lots of know-how and patents, and they are also commercializing these rare cannabinoids as bulk products to the health and wellness space. So this company has kind of a very broad reach in terms of both pharmaceutical development as well as manufacturing. And it's, we think we're set up very well to address the burgeoning market in rare cannabinoids.
Thanks, Eric. And before we get into too many details, can you please explain why InMed has chosen to focus on rare cannabinoids as opposed to the major cannabinoids like CBD and THC, and maybe explain some of the opportunities and challenges associated with rare cannabinoids in this decision?
Sure, glad to. So cannabinoids are a class of compounds that can be identified in large quantities and variety in the cannabis plant. Most people are familiar with the major cannabinoids, THC and CBD, and we now add to that list another one, CBG. These are cannabinoids that exist in very large quantities in the plant and can be easily extracted. And because they were so easily extracted, they've been researched for over the last 30, 40 years to find out where they may play important roles in human physiology and disease. So they've been studied extensively. They've been published, there's thousands of publications on their effects. In addition to these major cannabinoids, there's over 140 rare cannabinoids. So it's from the same compound class, but they are slightly different in their structures. And we think that of these 140, they're not all going to be important in treating disease or helping improve wellness. But we do think there's a handful of them that are going to play an important role. And so we've decided to focus on these rare ones. Why? Well, because we think they're going to be effective. We think that they're relatively safe. And we have to set out and prove that. It also gives us an opportunity to establish patents around how we develop these. Because they've not been studied to any great degree, we have the ability to establish a patent position which will protect us downstream as we attempt to commercialize these compounds.
Interesting. Yeah, and related to that, and turning over to your recent acquisition of BayMedica, can you explain a bit further than what we've seen in the news about this value proposition deal and the synergies between the two companies you've combined now?
Absolutely. So BayMedica brings a number of things to InMed, and we see it as a very natural fit. It all started over a year ago when we started talking about research collaborations, and the more Shane and I talked, the more it just seemed like it's a natural fit to bring these two companies together. They bring a number of things. First of all, they have significant manufacturing expertise that we think is going to be important, not only for the pharmaceutical drug development side, but also for the commercial health and wellness side. And they have an existing revenue stream. So they're already established in that marketplace, and there's a huge opportunity to grow revenues through new product launches. Secondly, they have a really attractive patent portfolio, which includes patents on these novel cannabinoid analogs. So as we reach into more diseases to better understand how cannabinoids might play a role, we have the opportunity to work with novel chemical entities or proprietary compounds. You can't patent the naturally occurring ones. They're in nature. You can't do that. But with these new ones, these analogs, we will be able to establish a patent position that's going to protect us on the commercialization front. So, you bring that with all of the know-how, the people who have extensive experience in pharmaceutical drug development as well as manufacturing. It just brings a wealth of talent, know-how, and technology to InMed, and we think it really augments the company overall very significantly.
Thanks, Eric. Shane, speaking of the talent in there, would you just mind taking 2 seconds and tell us about your impressive background before we move on?
Well, just in brief, then, undergraduate degree in neuroscience, went to medical school at Stanford, ultimately got sidetracked and started working for a startup in the biotech sector. Spent most of my career prior to this in the strategy consulting world, where I, consulted for, everybody ranging from the Biogens and Genentechs of the world on down to smaller, privately held companies. I got very interested in cannabinoids when I credit cannabis with saving the life of my neighbor's eldest son. Got me looking into research of why didn't I understand how this is even possible. And so ultimately BayMedica, and my interest in this whole sector kind of, stemmed from that moment back in 2014, I think. So this is something I've been now looking at and working on for quite some time.
Thanks. Very impressive. And I think that just expressed, and if you look into the other backgrounds of the management team and board here, it's very impressive for such a small company to have this think tank, this experience, specifically in this industry, that really, I think, has laid a solid foundation for the company to move on from here. The health and wellness sector for rare cannabinoids, while still nascent, is reaching an inflection point from what I can see in the marketplace, and I believe that's what the company believes as well. What impact does this mean for the industry? What early consumer trends are you seeing?
Thanks, John. Again, I think just for backdrop, I'm just going to reiterate, something that Eric shared, which is that, by definition, when we talk about rare cannabinoids, we're really talking about that whole cohort of 140 plus cannabinoids, excluding THC and CBD. By definition, since in the plant they're rare, they are more expensive to extract and isolate. So when it comes to these naturally occurring compounds, what we try to make possible is to affordably be able to access those. And it's critical to understand that not all cannabinoids are created equal, and different cannabinoids have different effects. For instance, THC, we all know, is intoxicating, and most people believe it gives you the munchies. THCV, similar in name, varies by 2 carbon atoms. It is not generally considered to be intoxicating, and by contrast, has been observed to decrease appetite. So small changes in the structure can lead to, in this case, almost opposite effects. If you think about the CBD market, which is highly fragmented, there are literally hundreds of manufacturers and thousands of brands competing for shelf space, seeking to differentiate themselves. And really, kind of this now, more recent accessibility or thought process around rare cannabinoids is that by integrating some of these cannabinoids that are going to have different function sets for specific formulations, that's a way that some of these brands ultimately can differentiate themselves and really, create a stronger repeat customer, right? I mean, they get it right, they will build their brand and build success. So that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of trends, and we're starting to see rare cannabinoid ingredients be used in cosmetics, pet care, nutraceutical categories, including tinctures, capsules, gel caps, etc. And I want to be clear, it's relevant for us to note that some of our existing customers, right now we just have one cannabinoid, CBC, that's in the market, but our existing customers are asking us, hey, are you going to bring any other cannabinoids to market? And so those cannabinoids that we are bringing to market in the near term are those that customers are actually asking us for.
Interesting. The market is definitely growing, and the interest is swelling around this whole space. Could you give us a little color on how you going to go about addressing the market?
Sure. I think in terms of addressing the market, we're planning several new launches in the short term, and that's a big part of this for us. Merging with InMed has provided some resources in both human capital as well as working capital to launch new products. So over the next 3 to 6 months, we intend to launch another, at minimum 3 cannabinoids to the market. So that's a big part of what we're doing to address this demand.
So is it fair to assume that these launches is where you're seeing that you'll drive revenue in 22?
Yeah, I think, look, in 2022, in terms of revenue, I think it's probably fair to say, look, I would expect at least half of our 2022 revenue to be driven by new product launches. I think it's also fair to say that our existing customer base, selling into that base, is going to be one source of that. So, I suspect that our existing customer base will, probably ultimately comprise 50% of our revenues as well. But we are, in addition to launching new products, we are also, building out a more robust sales and marketing, effort, and with that, certainly anticipate bringing on new customers as well.
That's great. Switching to the manufacturing, what role does the various manufacturing approaches play for the company? Can you explain how InMed's platforms produce rare, non-intoxicating, naturally occurring cannabinoids and novel cannabinoid analogs?
Look, I think here, and I think Chris can address this, in some of what he's talking about. I think, probably, with his focus on commercialization, but, our focus is really on the quality of compounds we make and batch to batch consistency. So we are pretty agnostic as to how we make them. And especially after merging with InMed, we have probably the broadest array of tools at our disposal relative to any of our competition in the market. So we leverage synthetic chemistry, synthetic biology, and also now have InMed's enzyme-based biotransformation technology, Integricin, at our disposal. So we have a lot of different tools that we can leverage to make sure that we do make the best product at a reasonable price, and have that batch-to-batch consistency.
Great. Hey, Chris, let's hear from you. Let me understand one of BayMedica's biggest strengths is being able to scale up the production of cannabinoids from benchtop to commercial scale. Why is that important to us?
That's important because there's a lot of groups out there. This chemistry, we've developed, as Shane mentioned, a number of technologies to bring these compounds to market. Currently, we're using synthetic chemistry to make our lead compound CBC. And a lot of groups can do this. It's in the literature. A lot of groups can make 10 milligrams, a gram, 10 grams, maybe 100 grams on their benchtop. We've done the same thing. We've taken those procedures. We've developed in-house technology that advances those procedures. And we've taken that technology from the bench, and this is what distinguishes us from a lot of other players, is we've taken that from the bench of gram scale. We've engaged a group of international manufacturers and been able to bring that 10 gram scale to the 100 kilogram scale and metric ton scale should the market demand that much product. And that kind of sets us apart and has allowed BayMedica and now InMed to become the world leader in CBC production. And we've built manufacturing relationships that we can then leverage in the future for our new cannabinoids, which are coming this year. And we feel like becoming first to market in a way at this scale, it protects us in the future against competitors that are a couple years behind us and trying to take their process from a bench to the 100+ kilogram scale.
That makes sense. When you look long term, do you believe synthetically produced cannabinoids will be favored over naturally grown cannabinoids by large CPG and pharma companies?
Interesting question. Yes, in the long term, for sure. We know the large CPG companies, the one thing, and Shane mentions this, they want reliable, consistent, pure ingredients in this realm every single time. Extracting from the plant, you can do this for the big three, THC, which you wouldn't want to do. CBD, you can do it for CBG. When you get down to the minor cannabinoids, it becomes very difficult to extract with that level of precision and purity. So the methods we're developing and have developed really allow for us to create compounds that will meet the needs of large CPG in the future. We feel the compounds we're developing now will be in a myriad products in the years to come, like CBD is now. And when those groups are ready to engage and bring CBC or THCV into their products, we feel like BayMedica, InMed will be the group they look to bring those product ingredients into their products.
Well, with that said, what really differentiates BayMedica, InMed from other competitors in the industry when it comes to the manufacturing of rare cannabinoids, specifically THC?
THCV.
THCV, I'm sorry. Thanks. These acronyms can throw you, get you into trouble in a hurry.
In case anybody from the DEA is on the line, we are not making THCV. But we are making THCV, and so a couple points. We've established this manufacturing network and supply chain network that we're plugging now THCV into. What we've done is, like we did with CBC, we've looked at the process to make THCV. We have then improved that process in a way that's pretty significant. And we're now bringing that process into our manufacturing network. And one thing that's really key about THCV is that the method we're using to make THCV there's zero chance of getting the illegal compound THC in there. So again, if you look back at a multinational or internally, you do not want to be making THC. You don't want to try to separate THC from THCV in a plant. You know, plants, there's some plants that make a lot of THCV. They also make a lot of THC. It's possible to get those two to come apart, but it's really challenging, and I'd lose a lot of sleep if I were selling a THCV product into the market. I'd always be worried that I have a little bit of THC in there. That would keep me awake at night. With our process, there's zero chance that you're going to have any THC in the finished product, and our THCV is going to be the same every single time.
That's rational, and let's make sure you get your sleep at night, and so you're working hard every day for us at InMed. So I understand that BayMedica brought with this acquisition of BayMedica that you work with several global manufacturing organizations. Can you please give us some color on the nature of these relationships and plans to bring product to market?
Yeah, that's a big question. I'll take the manufacturing first, and so part of the process of developing CBC into the marketplace, as I mentioned, we took it from the bench to the hundreds of kilogram scale and larger. And what we did was we built out a redundant ingredient supply chain. We have then used those redundant ingredient supply chains to go to key manufacturers, key trusted partners, and those partners then take the ingredients, they do the first step of the process. Then we take that, bring it to a third partner, which will then, for example, finish the CBC and make it into the sellable product. And we have tried to build in redundancies at all these stages. And importantly, by separating out the ingredient supply from the intermediate manufacturing from the finished manufacturing, because we have protected our processes to some extent through intellectual property filings, but also through know-how, we have wanted to separate out that know-how across multiple different partners to protect our IP position with respect to manufacturing these cannabinoids. And the nice thing about having this global supply network is then we can just plug in supply and manufacturing, plug in THCV, we can plug in CBDV, we can plug in the next cannabinoid that the market asks us for. And we feel that's really a real advantage that BayMedica InMed has in the way we manufacture. And your second part of that question was bringing products to market. So we expect THCV in particular to have very strong market demand. What we have heard from our supplier or our intermediate sellers is that they can't get enough THCV. So we plan on bringing these new cannabinoids, plugging them into our existing distribution and end product users, and then allowing, as Shane mentioned, to allow those brands to make new products that meet new health and wellness outcomes. So one thing the market's demanding is if everybody has, for example, now everybody's got CBD. So if you're a brand and you're selling a CBD product, how do you distinguish that from the other 469 brands that are out there? It's very difficult. You can add more. You can tweak things. What's really, I think, going to be a game changer in this cannabinoid marketplace for consumers is going to be the ability to bring high quality, precise amounts of minor cannabinoids together with CBD to create novel products that allow brands to have novel products on the shelves, allow consumers to have novel products to treat novel outcomes or health and wellness outcomes that they're interested in. And as I mentioned, we're going to tie that to our existing sales network. And as Shane mentioned, we're building out a broader sales and marketing effort to bring these products to market.
Great. This just popped up from the tribe. It says, the question is in regards to THCV. Is it your goal, or is it what you've done have you established yourself as a low cost producer of THCV? And if so, how defensible is that position, or would be that position?
Shane, I'll let you take this as well. But so by developing the technologies we've developed, we believe will allow us to create a differentiated THC product in and of itself. And this gets technical into the Delta 9 versus Delta 8 forms of the product, but we have a novel method that creates a new form of THCV that's going to be more desirable by the market. And the process is ultimately scalable to a level that we believe will keep us very competitive within the marketplace. And then getting back to the manufacturing platform that we have, we are agnostic to the way we're going to make THCV 5 years from now. We have a good biosynthetic platform to make THCV as well. That's a longer term project, but again, we can make it chemically now, and in the years to come, we'll be developing a method to make it with biosynthesis, which at that time and scale should really keep the price competitive in the marketplace.
I might just add to that in a slightly different way, just kind of answer it with regards to our existing product, which is CBC. And for CBC, since we initially launched it commercially, we've reduced our cost of goods by approximately fourfold. We've made CBC via 3 different methodologies: a hybrid approach where we made a key precursor via yeast fermentation and then did chemistry on that. We've made it via pure chemistry, and we've also made it via pure synthetic biology and yeast. Each one has its own nuances. Pure chemistry ended up being the fastest, cheapest way to get it to market at scale, and even just using that, we've already reduced our cost of goods by 4x. Ultimately, I think even for CBC, the pendulum will swing back toward a full biosynthetic approach or a hybrid approach at minimum, because but you really need large demand. You need to be able to get into a continuous production cycle, et cetera. And with these rare cannabinoids, the market is still finding its way to some extent. So, right now we're doing, more ad hoc batches of CBC. They're large batches. They're a couple hundred kilos. But, if we were going to be doing biosynthesis, we would need to be doing that at minimum every month. Or even larger scale. So I think that's another way to think about this, is the ability to transition and mix and match manufacturing approaches based on market demand, based on what we've accomplished at the benchtop, and really optimizing for the right solution, the right manufacturing approach for the demand that we're seeing. Thanks,
Shane. This is a quick question that came in, and I'm not sure if I fully understand it, but I'm going to throw it at you. It says, can your product be tagged for tracking purposes?
In theory, yes. I mean, that's obviously there's a lot of, and again, for those familiar with the cannabis market, there's a whole big emphasis on seed to sale tracking and things like that. A lot of that is reliant upon compliance technologies, right, as opposed to actual tagging of the product itself, but a lot of other measures put in place to make sure that, there are checks and balances on, what comes in on somebody's books, versus what goes out. In theory, you could put a molecular tag, and certainly pharmaceutical companies do that with some of their products. That adds cost. We haven't really seen the need to go that direction yet for these. And again, we're not dealing with controlled substances here. We're dealing with things that ultimately are bulk ingredients, for health and wellness, more along the lines of, think about like a melatonin or a vitamin D or what have you. So, is it worth tagging those? I don't know, but certainly be feasible if we need to go that way, or the market demands it.
Great, thanks, Shane. Eric, on the switching over to the pharma side, I believe there have been a couple of very significant acquisitions recently in the space, with names such as Pfizer, Arena, Jazz Pharmaceuticals, GW Pharma. Can you please give us some color on these and what it means for the industry as a whole from your point of view?
Sure. I mean, success begets success, right? And now that GW Pharma has been able to demonstrate that they can take a molecule that they don't own the patent on, they can develop it for a specific disease with a very high unmet medical need in epilepsy, and bring it to market through an FDA approval process, and generate upwards of $1 billion a year in sales. it's proven out really what the model is that we've been pursuing for the last several years. And that is that, if you find the right cannabinoid to treat the right disease, the time and the investment that it takes to get an FDA approval can be very beneficial, and it can pay a lot of rewards, not only for the patients who are benefiting from the products, but also to the investors who help support the company along the way. So it's no surprise that big pharma is waking up to this. Jazz Pharmaceuticals bought GW for 14 times revenues, and it's an important part of their portfolio now. Pfizer acquired Arena, that's playing in the cannabinoid space. So I think it just validates, everything that we've been pursuing and saying over the years, and that is, if you find the right drug for the right disease, there's a lot of benefit, there's a lot of a potential upside for the company, and we think we're right in that sweet spot.
As a follow-up to that, member of the tribes wanted to know if with your research in rare cannabinoids, are you looking towards autism for any reason at this point?
Yeah, we can't disclose all the things that we're working on. We did file a patent towards the end of last year in neurodegenerative diseases, things like Alzheimer's, Huntington's disease. And it shouldn't be any surprise, given what GW has been able to establish with CBD in epilepsy. So there's definitely some kind of interaction going on in the brain. From our glaucoma research, we saw this neuroprotection. So CBN actually protects the neurons that are responsible for giving us vision, independent of whether or not someone has glaucoma. And these are, of course, preclinical models that I'm talking about. So that data was recently published. I think that's going to further spark some interest in the field. But there's something going on with the interaction between cannabinoids and neuropathology. And Shane might know a heck of a lot more about this. I don't want to step offside. He's the neuroscientist here. But we're seeing it time and time again. We're seeing it in CBN in the eye. We're seeing it in CBD in epilepsy. And we've seen it with another rare cannabinoid in these other diseases. So I think as we go forward, neurodegenerative diseases, the neuronal interaction between the body and cannabinoids is going to be something that's much more explored on the pharmaceutical side, and I think there's a lot of upside there.
Maybe I can just add one other point, which is I think we have announced that one of the cannabinoids that we intend to launch over the coming months is CBDV. CBDV is currently in human clinical trials for the treatment of autism spectrum disorder. So there's something right in our health and wellness wheelhouse that does have that potential. And I think what we're thinking about as now kind of a combined new entity at InMed here with BayMedica as well is our ability to leverage what we see out there with rare naturally occurring cannabinoids, make slight tweaks to those, i.e. these novel analogs that Eric referenced earlier. And you could imagine, for instance, that if we made 20 or 30 different variants of CBD itself, the probability that one of those variants might be better than CBD for the treatment of seizures is actually fairly decent. And if it has a reasonable safety profile as well, you all of a sudden maybe have a better drug or better mousetrap. Now, proving that out is that long, expensive FDA approval process. So I'm not saying that we're going after, Epidiolex right now or tomorrow, but that's kind of a thought process in terms of going forward, where we'll be looking at these novel analogs for the pharmaceutical program, as opposed to these, rare cannabinoids that have a lot of value, but are not as protectable.
Thank you, Shane. Switching over to the sell side, you've recently caught interest of Wall Street from the likes of analysts at Edison, Roth Capital Partners, and H.C. Wainwright, who just initiated with buy ratings and are updated, and with price targets ranging from $6 to $20+. Can you please speak to what they are saying and other interest that you may be receiving from Wall Street?
Yeah, it's great when you start to get analyst coverage. Certainly, it broadens the audience who knows about your company, and it gives them a good resource to learn more information from, in many cases, an independent source. we've been talking with a lot of different investment banks and analysts over the years, and slowly they're starting to spark to this idea, just as other people are, that this is going to be a very important field. So I think what's really important about this is that we're being covered by seasoned biotech analysts who understand the drug development side exceptionally well. They understand the kind of inflection points that we have hit and are going to continue to hit, and they can build that into their models in terms of valuation. I think only one person has made any projections about what our revenues may look like on the consumer health and wellness side, which means the others haven't. So if you look at their price targets, it's based solely on success in the drug development side, as well as Integrison. And the added upside that's not even calculated into that is the potential revenue and margins that we generate in the consumer health and wellness space. So, we're very glad to see people starting to pick up the story. We want to continue to expand that. I think it's like what we're doing here. We're trying to find the right megaphones to tell our story, because we think we have a very solid story. We have a very exciting company. We just need to find ways to get the message out to a broader base of investors and let them decide if they want to jump on board and join us on this journey.
Great. And Eric, in conclusion, as we look forward into 2022, can you please let the tribe here know what key milestones should we expect to see from you and InMed?
Sure. This is just a quick summary here, but really important to us as a company, as a joint company, is the introduction into the marketplace of several high demand cannabinoids in the health and wellness space. I think we're set to launch these in the coming months. We're very excited to make these available. There seems to be a very high demand for some of these products. It's hard to ascertain exactly how high the demand is going to be, but from every indication that we have from existing customers in the marketplace, it's going to be a very attractive opportunity for us. In conjunction with that, we're going to continue to make improvements in our manufacturing processes in an effort to lower the cost of goods. And Shane talked a little bit about the fact that we're agnostic as to how we do this. Right now, chemistry seems to be the fastest way to get into the market, chemical synthesis. But over the longer term, maybe that is a biosynthetic approach or an enzymatic approach, as with Integrison. So we're going to continue to make improvements and position ourselves to not only acquire but to keep a very strong market position. On the drug development side, we're going to continue to enroll patients in our phase 2 clinical trial in epidermolysis bullosa, which, as I mentioned, is a rare genetic skin disorder. We are currently up and running in Europe with that trial and Israel. And over the course of this year, we'll be completing enrollment and looking at the data to better understand the full potential of INM 755 in that patient population. For glaucoma, we continue to make good strides. We want to progress that program towards human clinical trials. Over the course of 2022, we'll be working in toxicology and doing other studies that will enable us to enter human clinical trials. So right now in early 2023, we anticipate submitting the applications to the FDA to start human clinical trials. So still a lot of work to be done there, but it's a very exciting program. And we recently, just before the holidays, had a publication in a peer-reviewed journal that talks about the data and why we're so excited about this program. We're going to work with the team at BayMedica to develop new cannabinoid analogs, and then on the InMed side, we will be investigating those in preclinical models to really identify if there's some interesting compounds there for our own development or for licensing with pharmaceutical partners. So that's something that we're very excited about, and we'll be working on that over the coming year. And as part of all of this, we'll continue to build a very significant patent portfolio and know-how. We have 12 patent families right now. We'll continue to expand that in order to protect the commercialization of our technologies downstream. And it's something that, we've been very good at. The team at BayMedica has been exceptional at, and combined, I think we're just that much stronger in terms of our ability to carve out patents on these important new findings that we have.
Well, since we've got a little bit over the 30 minutes, I think we need to wrap things up today. exciting story. Gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts, your ideas, and your outlook for 2022 and beyond for InMed Pharmaceuticals. This whole space is very interesting to me, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it all plays out as we move forward in this fastly growing market segment. I will invite you guys to come back as you're making progress. We've already got interest. I apologize to the tribe if we didn't get all the questions answered today. But know that if you continue to express your interest through the wish list at tribepublic.com, we'll continue to seek to get InMed back on at the earliest time that makes sense. So again, I want to thank the InMed team. I wish you great success. Remember, InMed trades under the symbol INM on the Nasdaq. And I want to thank the tribe from around the world that have joined us today and for all your great questions. And wish you all the best of luck this year. And thanks again, Eric, Shane, and Chris. Very much appreciate your time.
Great. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, John.
Appreciate it.